Hello everyone, wish you a very good evening. I'm Kanika Kumar, the founder of Minds That Matter. The aim of Minds That Matter is to spread awareness about special education. And today my speaker for the day is Ms. Varsha Mathur. She has a master's in clinical psychology and 15 years experience in the field interacting with children as well as adolescents. Today our topic of discussion is supporting children inside and outside the classroom. Inside the school, we have adults like teachers, special educators, counselors to support the child, whereas outside the school, we have adults like parents and the larger social community. So please join me in welcoming Ms. Varsha. I hope she is able to join now. Yes, I am also keeping my fingers crossed. Okay, I think she's taking some time joining. Thank you for your patience, everyone.
I can see you.
Oh, yay! This is actually a
I'm so
question.
happy.
My God, you tried all morning.
Yes, finally it worked. So, welcome everyone in the audience. Thank you for joining us again in the evening, though we are like 6 hours late with our session. But without wasting any more time, we're just going to jump in. So, Varsha, let's start by discussing what are the different kinds of challenges that children might face in the classroom.
Uh, so, I actually wanted to begin by really saying that I've worked with a couple of schools, and you know, I've worked with schools that have an integrated setup, but a
Hmm.
lot of schools don't also have that, and it's in that sense we have a far long way to go with with acceptance of special needs and
Yes.
acceptance of mental health also, in the field that I am. So it's been fortunate for me to have worked with organizations that have these kind of setups where we're catering to needs of special needs students. And it hopefully this these talks and what you're doing is going to encourage people to take this forward in their own, whether it's schools or colleges or any academic institutions. Uh,
Hmm.
it's important to have that, and hopefully talks of these will help people understand why it's important. So the organization I worked with have both kind of neurotypical and neurodiverse children in the classroom. So which in very
Okay.
simple language means that there are age appropriate children who have achieved age appropriate milestones. So what we very regular call the regular students in
Right.
mainstream, and the neurodiverse children who we can, for simple language, call the special needs students also. So there are setups where both these children, regular children and students with special needs, are in the same classroom, in the same
Okay.
setup.
Right.
And interesting, I do want to highlight here that interestingly we feel that the regular children are doing fine, but every child who's sitting there in classroom comes with some of the other baggage, comes with some of the
Mhm.
other concerns. Maybe a so-called regular child will have more concerns of my friend's not talking to me, or I'm not, I've had a fight with my friend, or may have issues of body image or sexuality or self-identity, stuff like that. Not to say that a special needs child will also have these issues. A special needs child
Right, right.
also comes with concerns of body image and self-identity and stuff like that. But I think that comes at a later stage for them. For them, it's a lot about the sense of belongingness
Mm-hmm.
and not having a friend, in the class. So some more different level of or a different category of concerns that a neurodiverse child will come with. Or getting to be acquainted in the class, getting to feel a sense of belongingness in the classroom.
Right.
And yeah, issues of body image and self-identity and anxiety is something which is also very commonly seen these days, particularly. Do also come up uh, for even neurodiverse children. So yeah, to basically highlight that no matter which child is sitting in the classroom, they all come with some or the other, areas of concern, difficulty. We are all struggling in our own way.
And what ends up happening is that we might notice the challenges of a special needs child more because they might express it in different ways which get highlighted. Like for example, they might have a temper tantrum or a
Yeah.
meltdown, or they might hit or pinch someone. So it actually comes to the forefront. The teacher notices it and they realize that there's something going on over here. Whereas for a regular child, the child may just keep sitting silently
Hmm.
and may not even
Yeah.
express it. So it kind of goes unnoticed, sadly, many times. So,
Yeah.
anyways, I think you mentioned a really important point when you said that the biggest challenge that a child with special needs faces is the belongingness. So, I want to delve a little deeper into it. Why is it that this sense of belongingness is not so firm for a child with special needs in the class? What affects
So
this negatively?
I wouldn't say that only a child with special needs faces this. I think any child can, but possibly
Right.
the fact that I think it may go a little more deeper for a child with special needs. Possible reasons are that they're partially in the class, partially not. They're there for certain activities, certain not, or very few. Maybe just one period or in the morning. Beginning of the day that they are there and they're not. So you can't really. It's also the way the setup is uh, that they're also in and out of the main classroom. So that obviously makes anybody, feel that where am I? Am I here? Am I in that class? Am I in this class? Am I supposed to study separately with a special educator? What am I supposed to study with this teacher? Am I a part of this class, or do I have to go to the separate setup and be one-on-one, or have classes in a small group? So I think that is what really makes the child feel disconnected from the rest of the group. But having said that, that's also the need. Uh,
Right, right.
of the child, and that has to be catered to. But of course, I think we talk more on what strategies and stuff we can
Right.
use in the classroom to kind of build up that sense of community and sense of support, what I like to call it. Sense of support for each child there, and particularly for the neurodiverse children there, for sure.
Right. So, for
And
the benefit of the audience, I'd like to mention that when Varsha said that there are times that children may attend some classes with their peers and others without them, it's actually possible because of two different situations. One, it might be that the child is in an integrated setup wherein the child's academic level is much below the grade level that the child is attending. So, for particular academic classes, the child is pulled out of the class to go and work with the special educator. Whereas for the
yeah,
other co-curricular activities like, let's say, physical education, arts, drama, music, for all of these classes, the child attends the sessions with the peers.
yes,
So,
yes,
because they're attending some classes with their peers and some without them, it creates a little bit of confusion, not just for the special needs child, but also for the classmates.
right, right. For both actually, yeah.
Right, right. So now coming to the part of the role of the adults, what is it that we as adults can do to remove this confusion and make every child feel like they belong in the class, to give them a
So
strong sense of belonging?
yeah, well, strong sense we try. um, but so to kind of uh, kind of subcategorize what we call adults in the setup. So I could look at my role as a counselor, what we do, then also the educators in the school, and what we would mean by outside of the classroom would be, I think, more of parents, software, what they can
Okay.
do, and So while I'm also looking at these three sectors differently, it's also very important that three sectors work together. And there has to be a collaborative working system. I cannot be working
Right.
separately with the child, just separately with the parents, and we have to come together and collaboratively work for the benefit of the child.
Right, right.
But I'll kind of explain the roles maybe differently so that it's easier to understand there.
Definitely.
So I think basically I'll start with my role as a school counselor. Is I mean a lot to do with kind of building awareness. So like you were initially mentioning, the factor of how especially child may you kind of express differently, and sometimes we're not aware, and we can't recognize the simple behavior traits. So for example, a special needs child may just be feeling restless in the classroom and wants to get up and go out, but they would start, maybe increasing their voice. Their voice may get loud, or they may take out some sounds, or they bang the table, or they may just get up and start walking and pacing up and down. And these kind of symptoms are very normal, like we call, right, for a special needs child, that they have the need to get up and move out, and they're not able to. This is how they express themselves. Now, for somebody who doesn't know what this means and what need the child is coming from, it could get very overwhelming. So, for example, a class of other students, it could be very overwhelming to see that, oh my God, what's up with this kid? Or even for
Right.
a teacher who's aware of what the difficulties of the child are, it could be like, okay, what's happening? So a number of times we don't realize that it's actually just the kid wants to maybe go out, is feeling restless, or maybe something's pinching them and itching them. It's
Right.
sometimes as simple as that, which probably a neurotypical child will just scratch and they'll be okay with. But it really disturbs the mental stability of a special needs child. Uh, so the first job for me really is to create awareness, help everyone understand what is the need of this child. What are the concerns? What are the strengths also? So it's not only about that there are problems. There are also some very good,
Of course.
very good sets also that special needs children come with. So first and foremost would be to create that empathetic environment, and create informed awareness for the environment in the classroom and the school at large. The first step would be that, and then to create a community which is more sensitive and understanding of the needs of the special needs child. So I could be doing circle time sessions, sometimes with the special needs child in the class, sometimes even without, because it's then a little easier to explain to the rest of the class
Right.
what are the concerns, and what is that this child needs, and how can we, as a community, as the class, as the support system for the child of special needs, how can we support? What can we do? So you'll always find some children will very willingly want to come up and give suggestions that they will help out, and
Right.
that's the opportunity to really cash on, and then how to kind of identify those children and create buddy systems. So, when the special needs child comes for activity classes, for example, or morning time, at least has some buddy there, has somebody to connect with, has somebody to talk to, has somebody who's going to help him or her understand that, what happened in the class and what's going on in the class.
Right. Right.
So that creates a
Buddies
good
can be really
integration.
very supportive. The child feels that they have a friend in their buddy. They can
Yes,
rely on someone in case they need help. In
yes,
fact, I've seen cases wherein buddies are very excited. They will help you to keep a
absolutely.
track of your timetable. That this class is next. We need to go to the third floor for so and so class. Let's take this route because some children have
Absolutely.
difficulty with directions. So
Yes.
they have someone that they can rely on and they can look up to for advice, for help, even little things like stationery, or in case sometimes buddies can be even sensitive enough to notice that there's something bothering you, and they might actually ask if
Yeah.
there's something that
That's
they
what
could
I
help
say.
with.
It's very important to tap on to those children.
Right.
Because like you're saying, some buddies are very sensitive, very caring, very concerned. They'll go drop the kid to these special educators class. They'll go get the
Yes.
kid to back to the class. So it's and even if two children in the class do that, it's
Right.
fabulous because in great care, I think a lot of others will pick up that behavior.
Yes.
That I don't need to be. I don't need to be scared. I don't need to. this has nothing to do with me. It has something to do with me as a child. This other child is in my class and I need to support that child. So again, my core area is that it builds a caring, sensitive community around.
And I think
So
having
that's
created the buddy system also leads to a lot of emotional development for the regular child, the neurotypical child. And the other
exactly that's
children
what
who may not be the buddies, but they are observing what's going on. It's actually a very
exactly.
enriching experience for all of the peers.
Yeah. So it's not that you're helping only the neurodiverse child, you're also helping the neurotypical children, and children at
Right.
large. So it's always a win-win situation. I think that it's always win-win for everybody.
Right,
So adding
right.
on, also in my role, I also sometimes need to kind of take one-on-one counseling sessions with
Okay.
neurodiverse. I do that also with neurotypical children. So that it's not that it's special for neurodiverse children, but sometimes to help them develop, simple skill set or understanding of, for example, boundary. So sometimes they forget that I can't stand so close. इतना चिपक के नहीं खड़े हो सकते किसी और से.
Right,
I have
right.
to keep some distance. Yeah, these days, of course, social distancing is the norm, but otherwise, also that you can't be going too close to another, even adult or another person. So to help create that understanding of what is boundary, why is it important? You need to keep at least 1 arm distance, for example. So kind of reiterating and helping the special needs child build that skill set. So for some things like this, I need to kind of pull them out of class and have one-on-one counseling sessions as well.
Mm-hmm.
It helps kind of focus on the particular area of concern.
Right, right. So
So this,
there must always also be times that I can remember that once there was this incident wherein 4-5 children were involved, and what happened was the special needs child ended up getting caught because he wasn't really quick at getting out of the situation, whereas the other children, they were really quick and they were like, "Man, we didn't do anything. We don't know what's going on." So what ends up
uh,
happening is this particular child gets in trouble without even realizing it and might not even playing the major role in the prank. So
right, right.
the teacher then refers to the counselor, and the counselor would speak to all 4-5 children, make them understand what is going on, make the special needs child also understand. More importantly, the other 4 children as well, that what is going
Right.
on, and you can't really take advantage of the fact that he's not able to get himself out of the suit.
But you know what also interestingly happens, so that's true as well. But what also interestingly happens that most of the time, especially a child would kind of narrate the incident as it happened, the same sequence, the same dialogue, and no matter how many times you ask them, right, they go in the same sequence, the same dialogue.
Yeah.
And that gives you a sense that then you really get to know that this kid was just probably a bystander, or probably not involved at all in the act that he did. And it helps. So yeah, so the sessions with the neurodiverse child would be different than it would be with the neurotypical children. That's what I was saying. I kind of meet all ranges
Right,
of
right.
children on a one-to-one sessions, and
But I
I
think
think
it's important to point out over here that not all special needs children are always, what do you say, innocent. Sometimes they are the
I was
good
going to
cop
say
of the prank.
that. Sometimes
Sometimes
yes.
they are the ones who are, who need to be taken to task, and they
Yeah.
can very easily try to manipulate the adult.
I mean, I think they're all children, right? At the end of the day,
Yes,
and बदमाशी करनी तो बनती है, भाई.
and
No
know
matter what.
exactly which buttons to push.
नहीं नहीं और बदमाशी करनी बनती है ना. I mean, you're a child at the end of the day. तो अभी नहीं करोगे तो कब करोगे?
Right,
So
right.
that's why they're all kinds, and depending on the levels and how much.
Right.
Sometimes they could be the one inciting the situation. The special needs child could be the one who's kind of had the tussle. Sometimes they could be just a bystander. Sometimes they could not be there at all. So it really varies from situation to situation.
Right, right.
In that you can't really put a one blanket to anything.
Mhm.
But yes, it's always depending on the specific concerns like I was talking of. Maybe language usage. They don't realize that like I was talking about the physical boundaries. Another example would be language usage. They don't know not to use the F word when adults are around, for example. They will just blurt it out. And then how to also help them understand boundaries in
Right,
that
right.
sense. That,
Using
you
that
can't
filter.
say Yeah, you have to have a filter. It is appropriate and inappropriate language. It's an abusive word. You can't use that abusive word in any context. Sometimes they may just use it without, without any context, just because they've learned a new word, and they
Yeah.
will just keep, blurting it out. Because we also keep doing, oh my god, ये कैसे बोल दिया? So हमारे reactions इतने मजे वाले होते हैं कि they feel
Of course,
excited.
yeah. As adults, we
Anything can
really need to understand that we cannot give into every situation. We need to actually
true.
pick and choose which situation to give attention to, how much
Yeah.
attention to give it.
How
Because
much?
sometimes if we give more attention to a wrong situation, then it can really go out of hand, blow out of proportion.
Absolutely. And how to also react. I think that's another thing, right? That as
Right.
adults, if like the kid has used the F word, and I say okay, and I say okay, what do you mean by that? And then they're quite stumped because most of them don't even know what it means.
Right.
But if I say that, oh my God, तुमने ये कैसे use कर दिया और ऐसे नहीं कर सकते, then
Right.
they know, oh, this is going to be fun. For them it's fun.
Yeah.
Uh,
Because they're just getting
and
attention and that's what they wanted, a reaction.
absolutely. So then it's fun, right? So which child will not want to have fun at the cost of when an adult is ready to
Right.
give that, right? So yeah, just to quickly recap, I think my role as a counselor would be primarily to create kind of awareness and education, empathy, sensitivity in the community, whether it's for children or it's for adults, and how through circle time and workshops, I tend to do that as well. Like I was saying, sometimes in the presence and sometimes in the absence of the special needs child. Then one-on-one counseling sessions for particular skill building or boundary setting, or whatever is the particular
Right.
concern
Right.
that time. So
So,
yeah, and
Arshita,
kind of get
this
all
is
stakeholders together as well. Sorry, to get all stakeholders together. So I think I, as a counselor, would be the central person to get the parent and the special educator and the teacher, class teacher also on board.
right.
So it's a lot of kind of course, we're looking center point is the child, but we're looking at a lot of support from all adults around the child.
Hmm. Right. Right. So now you mentioned in very simple words that what is it that a counselor can do to support the child in different situations. But there are times when little incidents happen in the class on a daily basis because these days we have almost every single class has at least one child who might have challenges, be it academic
Right,
challenges or behavioral challenges or even emotional challenges. And for every
right,
little incident, the teacher can't possibly call upon the counselor. So, what
absolutely.
is it that you would be able to do to support the teacher so that the teacher is equipped to handle those situations? Because
In fact,
ultimately,
I
the teacher needs to deal with the whole class throughout the day.
absolutely. Absolutely. And as a counselor, I don't even have the bandwidth and the capacity to keep getting into little issues. And like you rightly said, it's really then it becomes the class, for the teacher to handle the situation in the class. So
Right,
like I
right.
was saying, that's why awareness building is number one. That until and unless the teacher, the special educator, and teacher are on the same page of what is the need of this child, it's difficult to move ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Because then people see each behavior as a concern. So, like I was saying, stomping their feet or banging the table is not acting up. It's not necessarily a disciplinary concern, right? For a
Right.
child of special needs. So we need to understand what the underlying, the underlying need is of the child.
Mm-hmm.
So that's important to know the condition of the child, know the diagnosis, and to understand. So
Right.
for teachers, it's very difficult to use these heavy words of diagnosis. So one has to simplify them and help them understand. And once you know what the diagnosis means, what are the needs of the child, what works, what are the strategies that work. If they need to get up and walk in the class, let them do that. As long
Right.
as the class proceedings are not getting disrupted, let them do
Mm-hmm.
that. So we identify, say, a space at the back of the class where the child can just go walk it up and down. So these are simple strategies in which I kind of support the teachers with. Also helping, it really, coming back to the point of belongingness, that we were initially talking about, it really helps to have the special needs child, like we were talking, right? For some subjects, they're out of the class, for some subjects, they're inside the classroom. So it really helps that even if academic subjects don't match with the rest of the class, the child with special needs at least comes to the classroom setup for non-academic subjects. So like art and for music
Mm-hmm.
and for sports, PE, etc. Dance, theater, all of these. So there's a wide range of extracurricular activities that happens, right? And for all these activities, if the special needs child comes and becomes a part of the class and is doing the same curriculum and doing the same painting, for example, as the rest of the class is, it kind of creates that bond amongst the children. Then they also know, okay, yeah, this one is also there and will come for these classes and will then be for the other classes there.
Right,
So that's it. Also, I'm sure even in your experience, you've seen that how some special needs children are so good at music and so good at art, right? So that also kind of gives them this, when their artwork is displayed up in
right.
the, on the board, it also gives them a good sense of achievement, a sense of appreciation, acknowledgement, a lot of
Right,
positive
right.
reinforcement for their behavior. So that works very well in not only creating a better self-esteem for the child, but also to be appreciated by the rest of the class.
Right.
For their strengths. And I'm also, this is what I'm good at, and I can further work on it. So that really helps. What also helps is that when in the morning time, like we have prayers and assemblies, or we're in our classroom, just even 10-15 minutes of the morning time before the real drill begins at the school, that the child can come to the class, especially his child
Right.
comes back to the regular mainstream class, and just here's the morning chores. What's going to happen? What's not going to happen? What does the day look like? Uh, how things are going to unfold? Is there any activity? Sorry, isn't there, etc. So this also
Right.
helps, and so the morning time and the closure time are probably two definite areas where the child can come back to class and can be a part of the class. And non-structured times like circle time, free play, when are there, are also good to have the child back. And in a circle time, the
Right.
teachers get the while I step in for some circle times, I possibly cannot do as full counselor for all circle times, right? So, but primarily it is the teachers that are conducting the circle time, and
Right.
that gives them the opportunity to get to know uh, the
True.
thought processes or the behavioral needs or the emotions and feelings of the child with special needs also, along with the rest of the class.
Right.
So when
Right.
they express, that I was angry today because this one, took my pencil. So they understand that, okay, I'm not supposed to kind of snatch their stationery away. Uh, they need that. And that is why, this child was stomping his or her feet, in the class. It's nothing else, but maybe anger, an expression of anger.
Right. I think circle
So
time is one of the most important parts of the day because that's
oh,
when you get all the students and the teachers together to talk about real issues and actually leads to real bonding among the students.
circle time can work wonders. You can do
Yeah.
so much that it's amazing. It creates such a good community for everybody. For each child in the class and each even adult. So even when I
Right.
sit for circle time as an adult, I'm vulnerable over there, and I also have to be a part of the group, and I also share what's going on with me. And I may also share that I was upset, or I was you know feeling upset with how this child um, was suddenly crying or suddenly had a burst out. And how do the rest of you feel? And it's so interesting, Kanika, how the other children also come up with, yeah, I didn't like it, and I
Right.
also didn't feel like. I think we need to do something to help, X child. So if the circle time can bring out such wonderful insights, such
You
wonderful
know, through
opportunities.
all of these discussions, they're actually building on their communication skills, learning to label their emotions, how to identify them, how to discuss them in an effective manner, rather than later on having an outburst which might not be in control. So they're learning a very very important life skills which will help them in the future as well.
Yeah,
So I feel
and for
it's a
everybody,
really
right? For
crucial thing.
neurotypical, yeah, and for neurotypical and neurodiverse students, both.
Yes, yes,
Um,
absolutely. For all children and also for the teacher. Because when teacher is a role model, she's also an active listener. She's also expressing so the children can know the teacher's perspective as well. And adult's perspective is also important sometimes. During a circle time, the children may learn skills how to resolve conflicts amongst them. Sometimes
oh yeah,
the teacher's intervention might be required. Sometimes it might not be required. So they're learning so many skills through this time.
Oh yeah, yeah. And so many insights not only about themselves but also about the
Right.
rest of
About
the
the others.
children in the class. And so many times, a child may share what they are going through. It's been a bad week. It's been an emotionally turmoil state, and so much comes out in a circle time. But of course, I also want to use use this topic to just share a precautionary measures. At first, it's very important to also create that before jumping into these very emotional talks and
Mm-hmm.
talks about feelings and emotions in a circle time. It's important to first build that community of trust
Right, right.
and to make sure that what we share here stays in the circle, and and have everybody, no teasing, or nobody's kind of going to contradict the other. So I may have not liked something but you may have liked, and that's okay.
Right.
We can have different views, and but still we come together as a community. And how can we help? So to also be open to everybody's views, not be judgmental about it, is are very, very important rules of circle life. Only then
Yeah.
can we have the child or anybody express how they're feeling. Because if I feel threatened in a circle time, and I feel that if I express my emotional turmoil and I'll be teased by another, then I'm not likely to express it ever again.
Right,
And
right.
that could be damaging. That could be damaging. So it's very
Yes.
important for do exercises that build trust and build sensitivity in the
Mm-hmm.
circle before
Right,
we
right.
jump into stage two that we're already talking about.
I completely agree. I completely agree. And I'm glad you mentioned that part, because it's really important for teachers to create that environment where every child feels free to share and
Yeah,
respected.
yeah, and safe to share
Right,
there.
right. So, Varsha, so far we've talked about what a counselor can do to support the child, what a teacher could do in the classroom to address the issues and to reduce them. What about
Hmm.
once the child is, back home? What
Hmm.
happens then? Who supports them then? The parents. What about when the child goes to play in the park? Then you have, other children over whom you have over whom the parents have absolutely zero control. So then, what kind of support can the children get in that situation?
Hmm. So that's where the inside and the outside comes in, right? So we've talked about how inside in the classroom we can support. I also remember. I also can want to mention that even inside the school scenario, parent involvement is very important. So while of course outside the school setup, it is pretty much the parent and the child, as family together.
Right,
But
right.
inside also, we as a counselor also, I do interact with parents. I do get them on board. Uh, it's initial some support system that I do provide for the parent also. Sometimes getting a diagnosis of some special needs, or a new you're kind of a new parent. You don't know what are the challenges and the needs of your child. So the initial support is also provided as a school counselor. I do provide that.
Right,
But
right.
sometimes a couple of one-on-one sessions work, but sometimes parents need more support for their own emotional needs,
Mm-hmm.
because it can be very challenging, right, for a parent to also single-handedly manage household, work, and a child with special needs. So
Right, right.
in some cases, I do also advise them to seek therapeutic sessions one-on-one externally,
Mm-hmm.
and I think really helps. Also, I want to say, irrespective of whether you have a special needs child or a typical child, when we are going through an emotional turmoil, it's very good to go out and kind of seek help any time. And
Right.
there's never a right or wrong time for that. But when we as adults feel emotionally vulnerable, or challenging and drained out, it's important to seek help for yourself.
Right. And I feel,
So I think
seeking
that's
help
the
does not
key
have to
thing.
always be, related to going to a therapist per se. It could also, begin by you sharing your feelings with someone that you trust, that you look up to for advice. It could be a
Mhm.
parent support group, which could have other parents with special needs children who are going through similar situations, and they might be
Yeah,
able
and
to
then
share
coming.
their experiences, give you examples, or if nothing else, then just give you a patient listening ear, and make you feel better, because they wouldn't
So
judge
that's
you.
what I think what you are talking of is more of the friend system, that I have friends and
Right.
I can talk to them. I want to build up on that. So yeah, like I was mentioning, it is about, of course, I initially provide help, and then depending on the needs, I can ask them to get therapeutic intervention externally. So we need to also understand here, Kanika, that the support system that a counselor or therapist can provide is very different than what a
Of
friend
course.
provides.
Right. Right.
Uh, so a friend is a friend, right? And you can just pick up the phone and call them anytime, and bhara hua at that time. It's like, oh, I'm so irritated, and I just want somebody to speak to.
Right.
It's very
Right.
like at that time, and you just blurt it out. What will happen? And so I want to just use this as a distinction that a friend is there for your support all the time, but and is will probably be somebody who understands the situation, or probably be somebody who can lend you a listening ear. But the difference with a therapist or a counselor would be that they will help you kind of understand what's going on, what are the emotional
Mhm.
turmoils going on for you, what are the challenges going on for you, and also help you not only understand your own self, but also understand your own limitations, your own strengths, and what you need to do
Right.
for
Right.
yourself. Before helping your child, you need to kind of help yourself,
Of
right?
course.
Like in the airplane, we say first wear your oxygen mask and then the oxygen mask of
True.
your
True.
child. So till they don't get their oxygen mask, which a professional can really help them
Right.
understand, right? And what is your oxygen mask? And it's important for you to kind of pull that and wear it there. So that's the kind of difference I wanted to bring between difference between a friend, while and both are very important. Both have their own
I
special place.
agree. I agree.
Then,
And I'm glad
so
you
but
brought in the difference
uh,
in the two people, because of course there is a huge difference between a friend and the skill set of a therapist. And uh, particular challenges can only be addressed by a therapist. They are
absolutely,
trained to be able to do that, to help you identify what are the underlying causes, to make you identify the resources that you have at hand, which
yeah.
a friend might not be able to
They're
do.
trained professionals, so they can obviously go little more deeper and in a more professional way
Right,
about it.
right,
But having said that, like I'm saying, a friend is also very very important to have, and the more you have, the better it is, right? But
right.
coming back to the concern of how can the parent kind of a parent and specialist child get what can they do outside the classroom when there is no counselor, there is no teacher, there's no
Right,
special
right.
educator who kind of help them. So it's often I do see, in my experience, I've seen that uh, parents of children with special needs, they tend to kind of cut off, or they tend to keep themselves and their child in the house. I
Mhm.
really think it's this is an opportunity for them to also psychoeducate the community. So it's important for them to also step out. It's important for them to also make their child a part of the community in where they're living, right? In their society, or the neighborhood, wherever they are. So it's important that you allow yourself and your child to go out and play with others and engage with others. While they might be maybe mostly neurotypical children there, but it is still okay to interact with other parents and other moms and dads
Right.
that are in the garden, at the park, running around, and help them understand your child's needs. So that is a support I feel which we are not tapping on very well,
Mhm.
as I think as a nation, and primarily because we lack the awareness as a society, as a community. I think we lack the awareness of what is special needs, or even my area of mental health. It's always when I say I'm a school counselor, they're like, okay, what do you do? We never had a school counselor, so simple
Do
things
you
like
read? Do
this.
you read my mind? Can you read my mind?
Yeah, you read my mind.
This is
Yeah,
the
yeah. Can you tell me what I'm thinking? So that's the
yeah.
so there is such large scale unawareness of both our professions. So I
Right.
think this is a good opportunity for parents to really step out there, help the society understand what are the challenges they are going through, what are their needs, why it's important for a special needs child to interact with a so-called regular child,
Right.
and
Right.
what they can learn and what they can engage, and but also don't do this and don't do that, this may trigger, so don't maybe poke, or don't say this, don't snatch the ball from the special needs child, they may trigger them. So whatever are the particular nuances of that child's condition, and I think it's very important for parents to really go out there and educate, help us also in educating the society and the
Right.
community. So we can definitely do that. I would encourage them to do that.
Because then
But
only the society will
that's at
become
one
more
level.
inclusive.
Yeah, then only. Because at schools,
Right.
of course, the class is there from say 8 to 3 or something like that, and that we're doing our best to kind of have that inclusive, integrative setup. But what about outside? Once
Right.
everybody's child all children, parents are outside, then what? So we have to kind of continue that's important to continue what we're doing inside the school in the outside community. So one is that to also just go out and whoever you can catch. But it's very important, I think, for also parents to build a community of support with other parents of special needs children. Because the
Right.
way what you're going through is very similar to what you are. Their needs, frustrations, their struggle are very similar, right? And you
Right.
will understand. You will understand that how maybe getting my child to bathe or getting my child to brush my teeth or brush his or her teeth is a genuine struggle. It's not an adolescent defiance. कि मुझे नहीं करना. That's different.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
it's not an adolescent acting up, so to speak. It's actually a struggle to get them do these simple tasks in a day. So that
Especially if you look at
probably
the current
initial.
situation when children are engaged in online learning, it's an everyday struggle for the parents to make their children get up and take a shower and get ready for their morning classes. In our case, particularly, we have at least one student getting late almost every
Yeah,
single day.
I'm
And
sure. I'm
it's
sure.
not like the parents aren't trying enough. They are.
Absolutely.
It's like,
Absolutely.
they've
That's
been
what
for a 9 a.m. class, they've been trying to wake up the child since 6 a.m., pushing the child,
yeah.
please wake up. You need to have your milk, you need to brush your teeth, you need to bathe, you need to make your hair, you need to wear your uniform. But still, it takes so long. And,
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
management is a huge task.
I
And
was
it's
I
very
was just going to
easy
say that
to,
time management is such a huge struggle and genuinely so, right?
yes,
Genuinely so. The parents' struggles of a child with special needs are actually very different from that of
yes,
a neurotypical child. And while yes, a larger this thing is aim is to kind of create awareness and build a community of support and sensitivity. The demands and the day-to-day activities are something which probably a parent of a neurotypical child may not be able to understand, at least at these early stages. So
right,
it's
right,
important to build up a community with other parents who are also, have similar struggles. And, and then it's easier to pick up the phone and go, oh my God, I spent 3 hours in getting my kid to just eat his breakfast. And they say, yeah, I know. And I can really understand what you went through. And I've, been at it since 6 o'clock. Sometimes, as a parent, I need a break. And there is also no shame, no harm in saying that I need a break and I need my kid. Like children have play dates, right? What are play dates?
right,
Basically,
right,
the kid is gone to another parent's house. That parent is, of course, going berserk, but that's for just that weekend, right? Or that day. And how on a rotation. So if you have your community, so if I'm a parent with a special needs child, I have three other parents as well who have children with special needs. And on a rotational basis, we have once a week, once a
right,
week on a Saturday or a Sunday, we send our children to one person's house. Sure, that person is going to have a tough time, but we are going to at least get our break for those 3, 4, 5 hours that the child is there. And we all deserve it. We all need it.
right,
We
right,
often kind of take too
definitely.
much burden on our shoulders and say, nahi, nahi, koi samal nahi payega, koi kar nahi payega. Probably it's coming from the fact that I also don't trust anybody, and the fact that I don't trust anybody else with my child comes from the underlying need that I don't know whether this other parent who has a neurotypical child can really cater to my child's needs, can really understand if my child is saying no, I don't want to eat what rajma, for example, is that he genuinely cannot eat that particular rajma or that particular vegetable. It's they can't take it. It's not again, it's not an adolescent just saying, oh no, I don't want to do this, I don't want that, I want to be
Right,
fast. So it's a genuine thing that they cannot eat it, and how to then not shove it down their throat, but make sure that they're given the vegetable that they can eat and they're okay with. So I think a lot of fears for a parent come from the fact that a neurotypical parent, a child, a parent with a neurotypical child may not be able to understand the needs of my special needs child.
right, right,
So hence, it's important to build a parent support system, a parent community uh, of parents who are facing similar struggles. So if I have 3 more parents to back on, I can just say, please take, I'm sending my child for 2 hours. मैं तो इसको मैथ पढ़ा के थक गई हूँ, अब तुम पढ़ा दो. And like with children or even with us, when our mother says something, we never want to listen to it, right? It's always
right,
wrong.
right,
But when somebody else's mom says it, we listen to it. So it's so similar that they will go and study there, have fun there, maybe eat the rajma also over there, but they won't want to do that in their own house.
Right.
So it's important to say that I need a break, and then the child there on a Saturday. One day you take all the children on, some other day the play date is at somebody else's house. So that's how you create a supportive community for yourself, at large. So that's I think my theme of the day, to create a supportive community, whether it's inside the classroom and as a school network, or it's even outside, which the parents can do for themselves. It's so required, and
So I think,
they
Varsha,
also.
you beautifully highlighted how a parent support group is really important and what are the ways in which parents can support each other. What about the small little things that parents could do from their end to support their child? What is it that they can do?
So, I mean, that's a very broad spectrum, no, Kanika? It's difficult to kind of say, particularly what depends on the condition of the child, it depends on the need of the child.
Okay.
But I think largely, if we are aware of the condition of our child, right? So, say for example, if the child is ADHD, right? Let's take a very simple example. The child is ADHD. We know that to expect the child to sit for 1 hour and study uh, is just impossible. I mean,
Right,
can't do it.
right.
I mean, honestly, even I can't do it. But we can't sit on the screen in front of, or not even the screen. Sit in front of our books and do our work for 1 hour. It's an irrational approach to have, to expect the child to sit, and then it gets into a tussle. So I see this very often that my kid doesn't sit and my kid doesn't study. एक घंटे भी नहीं बैठ के पढ़ते हैं. And in my mind, I'm thinking, my God, एक घंटे बैठ के तो मैं भी नहीं पढ़ सकती यार. So so how to then kind of shift that my belief that maybe as a parent they were able to sit for 1 hour and study, possibly. But it's important for an ADHD child to kind of get up, physically get up, get out of the situation, and take a break. So study for half an hour, take a break for 10 minutes, then half an hour, then 10 to 15 minutes, another break. So to be more realistic in our approach, to say that yes, and this child needs to also go out every day because they have so much energy, right, in them, that if we say कि अब तुम घर आ गए हो and now from say whatever 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock till the night, you're not moving out of the house. But they need to exhaust their physical energy. They can't be inside. They need to go out and kick the ball and play football, or run around, or do whatever they have to exhaust that. So we often tend to forget that what is the need of the child, and like any parent, right? You want the best for your child. You want that the child kind of is studying well and doing well. But also to shift the focus on the need of the child. So whether it's externally or even internally, maybe a particular child of special needs is just fantabulous with art, right? And the kind of canvases they can create, possibly nobody can. So how to also use that strength. So when my child is more inclined towards, say, art or music, how to make sure that to further enhance that skill and not be so overly focused on just academics. When the strength lies. So identify the strength area. I think this, if we are more open and realistic about these approaches, then the battles at home will also, minimize and reduce.
Right.
Because we take the need of the child.
Right.
Identifying their strengths and it's so nice to hear, right? When I create a good canvas, like so, and everybody appreciates it. It boosts my morale, right? But if I'm not so good at my subject area, and I'm constantly being told, "Betu, और पढ़ो, next time अच्छा करना है," it's going to kind of take a drain out a lot from me, and I'm
And it's going
possibly
to
not going to
negatively
end up.
impact the self-esteem of the child. So I
Exactly.
think
That's
you
what
mentioned a very important point, that it's very important for parents to have very realistic expectations from their children. They can't force upon their expectations of what their child might want to do, but they need to actually identify the child's interest as well as strength area, and then accordingly give them the exposure and opportunity in that area, so that the child can actually hone their skill, build their skill, and make something out of it, rather than having
Absolutely.
unrealistic expectations that the child might never be able to reach up to.
Absolutely. And I think for any child, neurotypical or neurodiverse, if we build on the strength,
Right.
you know, they are likely to be happy, they are likely to excel, and you know, if they have their peace of mind and they're doing their jobs, their chores, it's so much of peace of mind even for the parent. You know,
Right,
so
right,
how to not make the home front a battlefield, you know, is very very important. And
right.
for that, first, difficult to do but not impossible, is to kind of realize that my child's needs are different from my needs, and my child's strengths are different from my strengths.
Hmm.
So I think half the battle is won if we just kind of take a step back and say, okay, I need to look at this individual as a single entity, a single unit, even if I have made it, but it's a separate person altogether, and I need to respect what
Right.
what they want,
True.
and literally build on their strengths. And imagine, you know, how much peace of mind I'll get, and then I don't have to keep calling my friend like, I'm so irritated, मेरा बच्चा बैठ के पढ़ता नहीं है,
Right, right.
कैसे बैठ के पढ़ाते हो? So I think another thing, no, as a nation, how to kind of shift our focus also from very academic oriented subjects to the other liberal arts, which is coming up, and you know, non academic fields, so to speak, of
And it's okay
creativity.
if the child is excelling in one area and not in all of the areas. Your child doesn't have to be A plus in every single area, or even in one. It's okay even if your child is average. As long
Yeah,
as the child is happy, is socially well adjusted, has a, let's say a good personality, has friends, that's all that you need for your child.
and I mean, honestly, you know, that's interesting you said. So I have not met one child who's good at everything. You know,
Yes, nobody is. Even I'm not. I'm sure you not.
of course not. So we can't be kind of having them
Right,
do everything. It's important to focus, you know, our interest, our and focus the path for the child also. If we do that,
right,
it's,
right.
you know, a simple thing to do, yet very tough, not easy at all. Because as a parent, I have my expectations, and I have different dreams, and I have different wants from my child. But
Right.
it's important to recognize that those are my wants and not necessarily the child.
True.
So I think, yeah, those are simple things that even parents can do outside to build a community for themselves, build a community for their child, and you know, basically, if we have a support system, you know, whether it's friends or it's family or you know, people in our neighborhood, if we have a support system, it also gives so much peace of mind to us, no? That
Right,
yeah, if
right.
whenever I need help, I can just knock on, you know, my padosi's door, and they'll be there to help. But if my
True.
padosi is unaware of my situation, unaware of my struggles, then wo bhi kya kare?
True.
So I think that's very important to understand.
So thank you, Varsha. I think you've explained in very simple words that what are the different kinds of challenges a child faces in the class. And what I really liked was that you also mentioned the struggles that a regular child faces, a neurotypical child faces, and it's not just the special needs child who faces struggles in the classroom. And everybody requires a support system, be it teachers, so teachers have support system in other teachers in the class, in the school. Parents require a support system. In fact, children also, in the way of buddy system, they also get a support system. So building a support system, a network of support, is really very important and crucial. Also, you shared a lot of strategies other than having a support system for enabling the child to deal with the issues, enabling the teacher to address the issues that the child might be facing in the class. So thank you so much, Varsha. Thank you for joining us today and sharing such insightful strategies with us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I mean, it's great that you started this initiative. So I want to congratulate you also on that.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone in the audience. Thank you for joining us at this revised time. And I hope that the conversation from today was helpful for you too.
Yes, absolutely. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.